What's up? Slam Warrior is one of the strongest League start builds in Path of Exile 2. It might just be the strongest, honestly. The build is tanky, the clear is amazing, and the single target damage is also amazing. You are going to flatten bosses like pancakes. So let's get right into it, but first be sure to like, subscribe, and hype this video if you're on mobile. YouTube keeps adding new stuff. Whatever, just go ahead and do it. It helps more people see our content, which helps us keep doing this. Join our Discord as well, we've got a great community there. Okay, let's start with a sales pitch. This is a very easy and incredibly fun build to play in the campaign, maybe the most fun. It's also very easy to stay alive. You know, it's still PoE 2, of course, you can't like completely AFK and stay alive, but the build is way easier to stay alive on than a Poison Pathfinder. Having done League start practice recently on Poison Pathfinder and on this build, the level of concentration and attention was like night and day. Poison Pathfinder is a strong build, but it is weak compared to Warrior. GGG's plan to nerf pack size and increase monster tankiness in high-level maps hasn't been super well received, to put it lightly, but it's actually a huge buff for this build specifically. If Pathfinder wasn't looking so juicy, this is what we would League start. We League started Slam Titan last League, and it is most likely going to be our second build in this League. And here's why. If you want to play around with a new bear form shapeshift and play a Slam and Bear, Titan is probably the best class for it. It looks like it is set up to be way better than either of the Druid Ascendancies at using bear form specifically. Maybe not the whole set of shapeshifts or all the Druidish spells, we don't know 100% what Druid's going to be like, but we know how well Titan slams enemies, and it is unstoppable at that. And that is kind of the point of bear form. Slam Bear, Titan, the synergy just makes a lot of sense. So in terms of guides, we have a PoB and a breakdown for the build on Mobalytics. It is going to be linked in the video description, and we will update it as PoB gets updated. And one quick note on PoB. PoB hasn't been updated yet. Click check for update, it's up to date. The current version of PoB is not up to date. This is not Local Identity's fault. GGG has not given him or any of the people who work on PoB the JSON required to update the build. Probably because they're still working on it and they're going to be working on it until like Thursday or Friday. We will update the guide as the PoB update happens. We can't do it before then. This is going to affect a few things that I mentioned later, but probably not very much. And that's because Titan really hasn't gotten huge changes in the coming League, and that's okay. It was incredibly strong before, and it got a small buff to something that wasn't really getting used before. That's pretty good. It just makes some alternative options be like available. Ultimately, no changes would have been good, and this is a small buff, so that's even better. Alright, let's talk a little bit about how Warrior works in the campaign. So in Act 1, you have a bit of skill comboing between Rolling Slam and Bone Shatter. The way that you combo these two skills together is pretty simple. Rolling Slam is a 2-hit combo. It's the first skill that you learn on the beach, and the first hit of Rolling Slam causes enemies to get a bunch of heavy stun buildup. Bone Shatter allows you to hit enemies that are like halfway up to being heavy stunned, and then it does a big AoE shockwave around them. If you hit them with the first hit of Rolling Slam, then quickly hit Bone Shatter, you'll essentially do a double hit combo much faster, and it will do a big AoE pop that does a lot more damage than the second hit of Rolling Slam, and also hits a larger area than that second hit. And this is pretty much the combo for maces throughout most of the zones in Act 1. You're just going to go around doing the 1-2 combo over and over again, and other than that, you can kind of just use Mace Strike to like finish enemies off. Pretty basic stuff. For bosses, the second hit of Rolling Slam does a lot of extra damage to enemies that are heavy stunned, so you can actually hit them with both hits of the Rolling Slam combo. That works. Doing both hits of Rolling Slam isn't bad, but you know, it's a little bit better to do the first hit in Bone Shatter for most of like clearing out packs. One thing that is being added in that's going to add a little bit of complexity to this in the coming League is the new Druid skill Volcano, which we don't have in PoB, we don't really have much info about, but it is in the pathofexile2.com/druids announcement page, and we can just take a look at it there. It is a skill that you set on the ground, and then when you do slams near it, it shoots out extra projectiles. That's pretty much it. We're probably not going to make much use out of this, other than like at level 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, you could make a Volcano skill, make that along with your Bone Shatter, and just throw that down whenever you're fighting a boss or a rare. Throw some Rolling Slams onto it and get some extra damage. Maybe that'll wind up being better than the current Rolling Slam and Bone Shatter combo. maybe it won't. It's probably going to have an int requirement on it, so it probably won't be like a great long-term solution, but maybe something for playing around in Act 1. Once you get into Act 2, you'll be able to craft Leap Slam, and that pretty much changes the game. Rolling Slam is basically dead once you get Leap Slam. Especially once you get a level 2 support gem, you're able to make Crater, and then that causes you to drop 3 fissures on the ground whenever you land. And now you're able to just basically Leap Slam around like a Super Mario Brother for the rest of Act 2 and a decent chunk of Act 3. You will eventually swap this out with Stampede in Act 3, but for a good long while, you're just going to be slamming around, just leap slamming on top of everything, and it works really well. Like most of the Act 2 bosses, you basically can just leap slam on their head until they're dead. Mace Strike still works as well. It's still totally acceptable for single target damage, kind of a little easier to use too, and you never have to think about mana. Once you get into Act 3, you'll be able to use Forge Hammer, and the way that you use this is you throw it on the ground, and then you yell at it, you use Infernal Cry, and it'll explode and do a bunch of damage, and then anything that you do around the hammer that would cause fissures to explode, like casting Rolling Slam, or more importantly, casting Leap Slam, will also cause those fissures to pulse up the same way that the fissures from Crater that are attached to your Leap Slam are firing up. The Forge Hammer ones are also firing up, so it becomes this huge damage increase of being able to throw down Forge Hammer, yell at it, and then jump on top of it. This gets even better once you unlock Stampede later on. And just to show an in-game version of the build, that is basically what you're doing at in-game, is you are just stampeding around. Really from Act 3 all the way through the rest of the lifespan of the character, you are using Stampede to get around and slam enemies, and it works really, really well. And then, for bosses, you throw the Forge Hammer down, yell at it to make it explode, and then stampede through the area and make the lines, the fissures, just flare up like crazy. This does mess up your GPU a little bit. This is another way in which the next patch is actually going to be a huge buff for this build, because the performance upgrades are going to just do a lot to make this build a lot less resource intensive, a lot easier to play. And let's go ahead and jump into a map and just kind of run around, stampeding around to show like what this looks like in maps. Yep, pretty much this. You just stampede around and everything explodes all around you as you are stomping all over the place. And it looks really good too. The big green explosions of crystals on every other slam. We'll talk about that once we get to the Ascendancy section, but yeah, it feels pretty good. You're just getting these explosions after explosions everywhere you go. Alright, now it's time to cook a boss. Forge Hammer, yell at it, stomp, 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 boss is stunned, we throw down a Hammer of the Gods, hit it with a Sunder while the hammer is coming down, and that's a dead boss. Very fun combo to do, and super easy, and you're able to start doing this in Act 3, and it's just the way you're going to play the character, basically, from then until the end of time. Or at least the end of the League. Alright, and with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the passive tree. So the first thing you want to do is come out and get some damage nodes, Brutal, Smash. There are some good defensive nodes in here as well, though. Sturdy Metal and Relentless. You are going to be running armor, like actual armor pieces throughout the whole campaign as much as you can. Getting a bit more armor, getting more life, getting some life regen is all helpful. Burning Strikes gives you some physics extra fire damage. That will give you some pretty good damage scaling throughout the campaign, and then you're just going to continue to progress the tree toward a bunch of these slam-related nodes. More damage with two-handed weapons. Aftershocks are a big part of the way that you scale damage on this build. You're going to get up to 100% aftershock chance on your Stampedes eventually, so getting more area on those is huge, getting more damage on nodes is huge, and we just continue progressing out here to get as much damage out of maces as possible. And really the thing that kind of kicks the build into overdrive is when we get Shattering Blow. This makes it so that you break 50% of armor when you heavy stun an enemy, and it works with all of the effects that increase armor break, like Reverberating Impact. You're able to double the amount of armor that you break when you Shattering Blow, effectively just zeroing out enemy armor whenever you heavy stun them. You can also take Flip the Script, which will give you bunch of life whenever you heavy stun rare and unique enemies. It's not a huge deal, but it is like a free half heal. It's pretty good. Breakage helps a lot with that, and it also gives you like a nice little defensive bonus as well. So this is ultimately the way that we're able to turn heavy stunning enemies into breaking their armor, which is a pretty significant damage increase for us. In terms of defensive scaling, we do get a lot of armor applying to elemental damage. This is a really strong defensive stat. It's something you want on gear. It's something you want in the tree. It will help you stay alive and really mitigate like a ton of damage. We also want to make our way over to blood magic around Act 4. That fixes all of our mana costs. We never have to think about mana ever again at that point. Then long term, we're going to want to come over here and kind of just take more of the same kind of things. Armor applying to elemental damage, more effective broken armor, also fully broken armor applying to fire damage as well, so we can get a bunch of that like cross scaling between doing fizz and then converting some of that into extra fire and then getting that applied, getting that to like be benefited by breaking armor. It all works really well. There's great synergy there between doing like tons of physical damage and also piggybacking some fire on top of it. And then we can kind of do some weapon swap tech as well. Like our main setup, we're just doing a bunch of damage related stuff. And then in our offhand, we can use the shield as like just something to kind of flip on to like run through areas. Not really for like fighting enemies or anything. But then you can take these bonuses, momentum and light on your feet. They'll give you a bunch of move speed increases and make it so that your armor doesn't slow you at all. And that's something you could very easily like weapon swap tech to when you're still making your way through the end game. Long term, the goal will be to get a from nothing with radius of Vaal Pact. Allows you to allocate stuff without being connected, and you can just take momentum and light on your feet, be faster, be slow immune, or mostly slow immune anyways, hinder and maim immune, and just move a lot faster all the time. Alright, now let's talk a little bit about the Ascendancy. So, as you're progressing through the campaign, your first points are not going to be to come over here and take hulking form because it takes 2 ascendancies to get here. This is the best node in the tree. It's probably the best ascendancy node in the entire game. It's incredibly strong. 50% increased effective small passive skills is enormous. However, you have to get this dumb extra like carrying capacity chest, this thing, in order to get there first. And so you just want your first 2 points to be an Earthbreaker, 25% chance for slam skills you use to cause aftershocks. Aftershocks do 100% of the damage of the base slam, so this is a really good node. Basically just 25% more damage for the rest of the campaign, or at least as long as you have it. Your second ascendancy is when you can drop Earthbreaker and then come take hulking form, which is super duper awesome. Now, as for your third ascendancy, if you want more damage, you could take Earthbreaker. You could also take Mysterious Lineage for more max life. Either way is fine. We kind of erred on the side of tankiness because damage was trivially easy in Act 4, but it's up to you. If you want more damage, you can take it. Once you get your fourth ascendancy, you absolutely want to have Earthbreaker and Ancestral Empowerment, and here is where we get to talk about the green spikes. Every second slam skill you use is ancestrally boosted. This is the thing that the green spikes are, this Fist of War support. You can use Fist of War 1 and 2 prior to getting this Ascendancy node, and it'll work on like the 6 or 5 second cooldown or whatever they are. Once you have that Ascendancy node, you can use Fist of War support 3. Fist of War 3 has a 14 second cooldown, which is crazy long, but it has double effect on the skills, and Ancestral Boost by default is 30% more damage and 25% area of effect, so that goes up to 60 and 50, which as you can see, gargantuan, right? But Ancestral Empowerment just completely overrides that cooldown, and it works really nicely too. Like if you have done 2 slams in a row and then the skills actually cool back down from that 14 second cooldown, it will not eat one of the free Ancestral Empowerments that you get out of, Ancestral Boosts that you get out of Ancestral Empowerment. It will then save it for the next one. So this works incredibly well. You're able to just like be summoning green spikes all day long. It works super, super, super well. You're going to be doing tons and tons and tons of damage and having huge AoE as soon as you get this Ascendancy node locked in. However, there is an option that you can maybe go with Crushing Impacts and this new Mountain Splitter Ascendancy passive skill if, let's say, for example, the Ancestral Empowerment for whatever reason doesn't really work with bear form and you wanted to play around with the bear-related stuff. The Crushing Impacts, your hits are crushing blows, is now getting the damage bonus from Surprising Strength, about half of it. That's pretty good. Makes it very easy to heavy stun enemies. And then Mountain Splitter, every third slam skill that doesn't create fissures, causes 3 additional aftershocks ahead and to each side of the initial area. Like, this could work really well. We aren't creating fissures with Stampede, so this is something we could potentially use instead of Ancestral Empowerment. I don't think it's going to be as good, but it's definitely an option. All right, now let's talk a little bit about gear, and the main piece of gear in this build really is just the mace. You just want a big physical damage mace with as much physical DPS as you could possibly get. Fire damage is also okay if you can get that on like rings or gloves. Added flat fire, added flat fizz are both good. You really do want the weapon to be as much physical damage as possible though, and then plus level of attack skills is good. The onslaught on kill with this weapon is an essence crafted modifier, technically so is the plus level of attack skills. Both useful. Other than that, most of the gearing is incredibly simple. Life, resistances, armor applies to elemental damage, armor. That's it. That's it. If you can get like rarity and move speed, that's obviously good, but that's pretty much it. If you can get life leech, that is super important since we are playing a blood mage build or blood magic build. You do need to have some life leech or else you're going to be just chugging life flask like crazy and you're going to be hating it. But yeah, one source of life leech somewhere, resistances, stats, very basic stuff. If you're able to get any 2% life on kill jewels in the passive tree, which I honestly can't remember if I have any or not, looks like I don't, but you know, that's pretty useful as well. If you can get rage on melee hit, that is super useful. That's maybe something you can get out of a Heart of the Well, or just out of, I think, a ruby can also work for that. There are some other things as well, like Time Lost Ruby down in this section of the tree, since you are allocating a lot of nodes, can be very useful. There's a lot of available stuff here, like Rage on Melee Hit, again being just a very, very valuable stat. And Rage adds a ton of damage. We are taking a bunch of Rage-related nodes. We have 49 Rage as our max on this character, and that is the main source of our Rage generation, is just those jewels. In terms of skills, they're pretty straightforward. You have Stampede as your primary skill. Once you get to Act 3, it's going to be either Rolling Slam or Leap Slam in the first two acts. Forge Hammer and combining that with Infernal Cry works really well. Hammer of the Gods is a great finisher on bosses or like big elite packs. Sunder is just like a little bit of extra damage you could throw in once you have heavy broken in enemies. Armor, you can throw a Sunder onto them to get even more damage, and you can kind of combo that with the Hammer of the Gods. You throw that out and Hammer of the Gods. Or technically Hammer of the Gods first and then Sunder real quickly. Depending on your attack speed, you might be able to get the Sunder to hit first and buff the Hammer of the Gods. And then Leap Slam is literally just there for like jumping over stuff. That's it. That's all it's for. As for your auras, Herald of Ash for your first one, Overwhelming Presence for your second, Scavenge Plating for your third. Never think about them after that. You just lock them in, support them, and then you're done. In terms of the campaign bonuses, we're taking Stun Threshold like we always do, and then we're taking Resistances in the campaign. With the final interlude, you can take increased global defenses instead. Once you have enough resistances, you can go back and swap it out to global defenses. But otherwise, yep, resistances, stun threshold, you know, life recovery from flask, increased charm charges gained, pretty standard stuff. Okay, question time. What's your favorite pasta? I'm a longtime maintainer that spaghetti is super overrated. Not actually bad, just overrated. Angel Hair, the king of all pastas. Sunset's favorite is fusilli, and she agrees. Spaghetti is mid. Fun to say, though.
But Angel Hair is better.
But we'd love to hear other people's thoughts as well, so let us know in the comments section. Alright, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and join the Skipping Sleep Studio Discord and become part of our community. And finally, thank you to all of our channel members. If you want to support us and help us make more PoE content, consider becoming a channel member. Thanks for watching. Bye.